It was late evening. The small town was already silent, and only a few streetlights were glowing. A man named Daniel was walking home after a long day. His shoes hit the wet road, making a soft sound. He was tired, and all he wanted was to reach his small house and sleep. But that night, something strange waited for him. As he walked past the old park, he noticed movement near the swings. At first, he thought it was a stray dog, or maybe the wind moving the rusted chains. But then he stopped. His eyes grew wide. There, sitting on the swing, was a little girl. She looked no older than 7. Her white dress was dirty, her hair tangled, and her small shoes were covered in mud. She was not crying. She was just staring straight at Daniel. Daniel felt a cold shiver run down his back. What was a child doing here? Alone at this hour? He slowly stepped closer. "Hey, you okay?" Daniel asked gently. The little girl did not answer. She tilted her head like she was studying his face. Then, very softly, she whispered, "Help me." Daniel's heart beat faster. He looked around, expecting to see her parents nearby, but the park was empty. The streets were silent. Not a single car passed by. "Where is your mother? Your father?" Daniel asked. The girl raised her small hand and pointed toward the dark forest behind the park. The trees stood tall like black shadows, and a thin mist was rising from the ground. Daniel's stomach tightened. That forest was dangerous at night. Nobody went there. People said strange things lived among those trees. "You want me to go there?" Daniel asked, almost whispering. The girl nodded once. Daniel hesitated. He should call the police, or at least bring the girl to safety first. But something in her eyes made him freeze. They were not normal eyes. They were too bright, too sharp, as if light itself lived inside them. He swallowed hard. "All right. Come with me. I'll help you." The girl finally stood up from the swing and walked to him. She was small, fragile, but her steps were steady. She held his hand tightly, and her skin felt ice cold. Together, they walked a few steps toward the forest. Daniel's mind screamed to turn back, but the girl's grip pulled him forward as they reached the edge of the trees. The night grew colder. Strange sounds came from inside like whispers mixed with wind. Daniel's chest tightened with fear. "Wait," he said, pulling the girl back. "It's not safe. Where exactly is your mother?" The girl looked up at him with her glowing eyes and whispered again, "She will come." Daniel froze. The way she said it didn't sound like a child's promise. It sounded like a warning. Before he could ask more, the girl suddenly let go of his hand. She stepped into the forest mist and vanished. "Hey!" Daniel shouted, rushing forward. But when he looked inside, there was nothing. The forest was empty. He searched for hours, calling her name. But she was gone as if she had never been there. Finally, tired and confused, Daniel walked back to his house. His mind raced. Maybe he was imagining things. Maybe he was too tired. But the cold feeling of her hand was still fresh on his skin. He tried to sleep that night, but strange dreams came. In one dream, the little girl was standing at the end of his bed, whispering something he couldn't understand. In another dream, she was pointing to his front door. Daniel woke up in sweat, his heart racing. It was just a dream, he told himself. But the next morning, as he opened his front door to get some fresh air, his heart nearly stopped. There she was. The little girl stood in his yard, smiling at him. Her dress was still dirty, her hair still tangled. But this time, she wasn't alone. She was holding a small flower in her hand, and her eyes looked brighter than before. Daniel stepped back, shocked. How did you find me?" he whispered. The girl only smiled wider. "I told you," she said softly. "She will come." Daniel could not believe his eyes. The same little girl he met last night in the park was standing right in front of his house. As if she had followed him home, her white dress was still dirty, her shoes muddy, and her tangled hair fell across her face. Yet her smile looked calm, almost too calm for a child. Daniel's voice shook. "Why are you here? How did you find me?" The girl tilted her head, just like she had done before. Then she walked past him, straight into his house, as if she had always belonged there. Daniel stood frozen. He should have stopped her. He should have shouted. But something about her presence made his body heavy. Like invisible chains, tied him in place. Inside, she sat on his old wooden chair and looked around. "It's warm here," she said softly. Daniel gathered his courage. "Look, you can't just appear like this. Where's your family? Where's your mother?" The girl's bright eyes lifted to him. She didn't answer immediately. She touched the table with her small fingers, then whispered, "Mother is waiting." Daniel frowned. "Waiting? Where?" The girl pointed again toward the dark forest. Outside, the same forest where she had vanished last night. Daniel's chest tightened. "You can't expect me to go there again," he said. "It's dangerous. And you?" He stopped. He didn't know what else to say. The girl leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "If you don't go, she will come here." A chill ran through Daniel's body. He opened his mouth to question her, but before he could speak, the lamp in the corner flickered. The room grew cold. Daniel quickly turned to the window. The street outside was empty, but he swore he heard faint footsteps on the road. When he looked back, the girl was no longer on the chair. "Hey!" Daniel shouted, rushing into the hallway. She wasn't there. His heart pounded as he searched every sage. Had his heart pounded as he searched every corner of his small house, the kitchen, the bathroom, the backyard empty. She had vanished again, without sound, without trace. Daniel pressed his hands to his head. What was happening? Was he losing his mind? That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing soft knocks on his door, but when he opened it, no one was there. He heard a child laughing outside his window, but when he looked, the street was silent. The next morning, Daniel decided to tell himself it was just stress. He went to work, tried to act normal, but his thoughts never left the girl. And then, it happened again. When he returned home in the evening, he found something waiting for him on his doorstep. A small flower. The same flower the little girl had held yesterday. Daniel's hands shook as he picked it up. It was fresh, bright, as if someone had just placed it there. He stepped inside, locked the door, and sat down, staring at the flower. His heart wouldn't stop racing. Suddenly, he heard it soft humming, a child's song coming from his living room. Daniel slowly turned his head. The girl was there again, humming as she played with the flower. Daniel's mouth went dry. "Who are you?" he whispered. She looked up with those glowing eyes and smiled. "I told you, I am waiting for her." Daniel swallowed. "For your mother?" The girl nodded. "But why me?" Daniel asked, his voice desperate. "Why come?" "To me? What do you want from me?" The girl stopped smiling. Her face turned serious, almost too serious for a child. "Because you are chosen." Daniel's chest tightened. Chosen? For what? Before she could answer, the lights in the room flickered again. The air grew heavy, pressing against his chest. Then 3 soft knocks echoed on his front door. Knock, knock, knock. The girl's eyes lit up brighter than before. She stood up slowly, her voice calm but strange. "She is here." Daniel's heart stopped. He stared at the door, frozen. Who was knocking? Was it really the girl's mother, or something else waiting in the dark? The knocks grew louder. Daniel felt sweat dripping down his back. His mind screamed to stay silent, not to open it. but his body betrayed him. Step by step, he walked toward the door. He reached for the handle with a shaking hand behind him. The little girl whispered softly, almost like a warning, "Once you open the door, there is no turning back." Daniel froze, his hand on the handle. The room was silent, except for the sound of his racing heartbeat. The knocks stopped, and then, in the silence, a woman's voice came from the other side. Gentle, soft, but strangely chilling. "It's me." Her mother. Daniel stood frozen at the door. The voice from outside was soft, almost musical, but it carried something heavy with it. "It's me," the voice said again. Her mother. His hand trembled on the handle. Behind him, the little girl waited. In silence, her glowing eyes fixed on the door, Daniel whispered, Is it really her?" The girl only nodded once, slow and calm. Daniel pulled a deep breath and turned the handle. The door creaked open, and there she was. A woman stood in the pale glow of the streetlight. She looked young, maybe no older than 30. Her long black hair flowed down like a dark river, and her skin was pale as moonlight. Her eyes, sharp and shining, almost the same as the girl's, locked onto Daniel. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. She was beautiful, but her beauty felt dangerous, like a fire that could burn if touched. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice smooth like velvet. "You helped my daughter." Daniel stepped back, unsure whether to invite her inside. She entered on her own, moving gracefully, as if she belonged there. The little girl ran to her and held her hand tightly. "I told you he would wait," the girl whispered to her mother. Daniel's heart raced. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Finally, he managed, Who are you really? Why was your daughter alone in the forest?" The woman looked at him for a long moment. Her gaze was deep, almost too deep, like she could see inside his thoughts. Then she smiled faintly. "She is never alone," the woman said. "I was always near." Daniel frowned. "Near? I didn't see you." "I searched. She disappeared right in front of me." The woman's smile grew a little sad. "You could not see me. Not then." The room grew quiet. Only the sound of the clock ticking on the wall filled the silence. Daniel sat down slowly, trying to steady himself. "You owe me an explanation. What do you want from me? Why bring her here?" The woman walked closer, her eyes never leaving his. "Because you are different. Because she chose you." Daniel blinked. "Chose me? For what?" The little girl's hand squeezed her mother's, and she whispered, "Tell him." The woman sighed. Her voice lowered. "We do not belong here. Not to this town, not even to this world." Daniel's stomach turned cold. He laughed nervously. That's insane. What are you talking about?" But deep down, part of him knew she wasn't lying. Those glowing eyes, the strange disappearances, the cold touch, it all pointed to something beyond human. The woman stepped closer. Daniel felt her presence like a wave of pressure around him. She leaned in and whispered near his ear, "Danger follows us. If you stay near her, it will follow you too." Daniel's hands shook. "Then why come here? Why drag me into this?" The woman looked at him with sudden intensity. "Because whether you like it or not, you are already part of this." The lamp flickered again. The air grew heavy, the same way it had the night before. Daniel's chest tightened. Then 3 shadows appeared outside his window. Dark, tall figures moving without sound. Daniel's breath caught. What are those?" The woman's face hardened. She pulled her daughter close. "Not friends. They are here for us." Daniel's blood turned cold. The shadows moved closer to the house, their shapes twisting unnaturally in the light. The little girl clung to her mother. "He can help us," she whispered. The woman's eyes flicked to Daniel. She stepped closer, her hand almost touching his chest. You saved her once. That means you are bound now. Whether you want it or not, you are tied to us. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. This can't be real. I'm just an ordinary man. Her eyes glowed brighter. Ordinary. Men do not see us. Ordinary men cannot hear us. But you did. That is why you must choose. Outside, the shadows pressed against the glass. The sound of scratching filled the room. Daniel backed away, fear rising in his throat. Choose, choose. What? The woman's voice was calm but urgent. Choose to stand with us, or let them take her away. The little girl's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Daniel, her small voice trembling. Please, don't let them take me. The scratching grew louder. The glass began to crack. Daniel's mind raced. He didn't know who this woman truly was. He didn't understand what these creatures wanted. But the fear in the girl's eyes, it was real. The woman reached out her hand to him. Her eyes locked onto his. Decide now, Daniel. Tara, there is no time. The window shattered. Dark shapes slipped inside the room, their long arms stretching unnaturally as they moved closer. Daniel's chest pounded. His instincts screamed to run. But the girl clung to her mother, and both stared at him, waiting for his answer. And in that single, terrifying moment, Daniel realized his life would never be the same again. The sound of breaking glass still echoed. In Daniel's ears, those shadow figures had entered his home last night, crawling with strange, jerking movements. He could still see their long arms, their faceless heads turning toward him. But just as suddenly as they came, they were gone. The mother had raised her hand, her eyes glowing brighter than fire. And the creatures melted into the dark, vanishing without a trace. Daniel had spent the rest of the night trembling, unable to understand what he had witnessed. Now, as the morning sun touched the sky, he sat on his sofa with his head in his hands. His house felt different, colder, like the walls themselves were watching him. The little girl was sitting quietly in the corner, drawing on a piece of paper she had found. Her mother stood near the window, her sharp eyes scanning the street outside. Daniel looked at her. She wasn't breathing hard. She wasn't afraid. She stood calm, powerful, like last night was nothing unusual. Finally, he spoke. His voice was low. What were those things? The woman didn't turn to him. Hunters, she said. They will not stop until they find us. Daniel rubbed his face. Why me? Why bring this into my life? The woman turned then, her eyes softening just a little. Because you are already bound to us. My daughter chose you, Daniel. It cannot be undone. He shook his head. I don't even know your names. The little girl looked up from her drawing. My name is Lila, she said softly. Then she pointed at her mother. Her name is Celine. Celine. The name felt strange on his tongue, but also beautiful. Daniel leaned back, staring at the ceiling. This is insane. None of this should be happening. I should call the police. Call someone. They cannot help you, Celine interrupted. They cannot even see us. Her words hit him like a stone. He remembered how the girl had disappeared, how the mother had appeared out of nowhere, how the shadows melted into nothing. Maybe she was right. Maybe only he could see. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the sound of Lila's pencil scratching against the paper filled the room. Finally, Daniel whispered, What do they want with her? Selena's face grew hard. Because of what she is. Because she carries a light they cannot touch. They want to take it from her. Daniel stared at Lila. She looked like any other child, small and fragile. But when she lifted her head and smiled at him, her eyes glowed faintly again. And for a second, Daniel felt warmth in his chest, a strange calmness, as if her presence was pushing his fear away. He quickly looked away, disturbed by the feeling. The day passed slowly. Celine didn't leave. She stayed near the window, silent, watchful. Lila followed Daniel around, curious about everything in his house. At one point, she tugged at his sleeve. "Play with me," she asked. Daniel hesitated. He wanted to say no. He wanted to push them both away, pretend none of this was real. But when he looked down at her hopeful face, the words stuck in his throat. He nodded. All right. They played a simple game with cards on the floor. Lila laughed, her childish voice filling the room. For the first time since all this began. Daniel almost smiled, but Celine's eyes were always on him. Calm, unreadable, watching every move he made with her daughter. That night, after Lila finally fell asleep on the sofa, Daniel and Celine sat across from each other. The silence between them was heavy, filled with words unspoken. Daniel broke it first. "Why does she trust me so much?" Celine's gaze softened slightly, because she sees what others cannot. She saw kindness in you. That is why she chose you. Daniel shook his head. "I didn't choose this. I don't even understand what's happening." Celine leaned closer, her voice low, almost a whisper. "You will, in time." For a brief moment, Daniel felt something strange. He wasn't only afraid of Celine anymore. There was something else growing, an unwanted pull, a quiet attraction mixed with his fear. Her presence unsettled him, but it also drew him in. He looked away quickly, shamed of the thought. Celine stood, her shadow stretching across the room. "Sleep, Daniel. You will need your strength. The hunters are not gone. They will come again." Daniel lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling. His mind was full of questions, but one thought returned again and again. Why, out of everyone in the world, did the little girl choose him? And why did he feel that with every passing moment he was beginning to care? The next evening, Daniel came home late from work. He had spent the whole day distracted, his mind stuck on Celine and her daughter. Lila, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't forget the glow in their eyes, the shadows breaking into his house, or the strange calm he felt when Lila smiled at him. When he opened his front door, he froze. Candles were lit inside his living room. The soft golden light flickered across the walls, filling the space with warmth. On the table, there was food that he hadn't cooked, and in the center of the room stood Celine, her long black hair flowing down, her sharp eyes glowing faintly. In the candlelight, "You're back," she said softly, her voice smooth as silk. Daniel's heart pounded. "What is this? What are you doing in my house again?" Celine smiled faintly. "It is no longer only your house. Let us in. That means it belongs to all of us now." Daniel shook his head. "No, you can't just—" He stopped when he saw Lila. She was asleep on the sofa, curled up with a blanket. She looked so peaceful, like the chaos of last night never happened. Celine walked closer, her steps silent. Daniel felt his chest tighten as she stood before him. Her presence was overwhelming, but not in the same way as before. This time, it carried something heavier. Something final. "Daniel," she whispered, her eyes never leaving his. "I have come to ask you something important." Daniel frowned. "Ask me what?" Celine lowered her head slightly, then looked straight into his eyes again. Her words came slowly, but each one struck him like thunder. "Be my husband." The air left Daniel's lungs. He stepped back, almost stumbling. "What? What did you just say?" Celine didn't blink. "I want you to become my husband. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now." Daniel's heart raced. "Are you insane? We barely know each other. You're not even know what you are." Celine moved closer, her voice steady. "It is not about knowing, 'tis about surviving. You are already bound to us. If you do not accept, the hunters will find her. And when they do, they will destroy you too." Daniel's hands shook. Why me? Why not someone else? Why drag me into this? Celine reached for his hand. When her cold fingers touched his skin, Daniel felt a sudden burn on his palm. He pulled back quickly and stared. A faint mark glowed on his hand, a shape like a circle with strange lines inside it. Daniel's eyes widened. "What is this?" Selena's expression softened, almost tender. "The bond. The night you saved Lila, she marked you without knowing. You are connected to her now, to both of us." Daniel's breathing grew shallow. "So this mark means what?" "That I don't have a choice." Celine nodded slowly. "It means destiny chose for you. Refuse, and you will suffer. Accept, and you will live." Daniel's mind spun. He looked at Lila, sleeping so peacefully, unaware of the storm around her. He remembered her small hand in his, her laughter as they played cards, her soft whisper, "Please, don't let them take me." Something twisted in his chest. He didn't want to care. He wanted his normal life back. But already, deep inside, he knew he cared too much. Daniel looked at Celine again. Her eyes glowed with strange beauty, but also with something human fear. She was strong, mysterious, maybe even dangerous. Yet behind that strength was a mother's desperation. "You're asking me to risk everything," Daniel said slowly. "My life, my soul, everything." Celine stepped even closer, her face inches from his. "I am not asking you to risk, Daniel. I am asking you to become one of us, to protect her, to protect us. And in return, we will protect you." Daniel's heart pounded louder and louder. Part of him wanted to scream, "No." But another part that still felt the warmth from Lila's smile hesitated. "I don't love you," he whispered, almost ashamed. Selena's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. "This is not about love. Love will come later. Or maybe it will not, but bond is stronger than love. Bond never breaks." Before Daniel could answer, a sudden chill swept through the room. The candles flickered violently, their flames nearly dying. Lila stirred in her sleep, whimpering softly. Selena's head snapped toward the window. Her voice dropped to a sharp whisper. "They are close again." Daniel felt his stomach sink. The hunter Celine turned back to him, her eyes glowing brighter, almost burning. "Choose now, Daniel. If you accept, they cannot break through. If you refuse, tonight will be your last." The shadows outside pressed against the glass. Dark shapes crawling, scratching, hungry. Daniel's chest tightened. He stood between two worlds, his normal, simple life, and the terrifying bond with Celine and her daughter. But when Lila whispered in her sleep, "Don't let them take me," something inside him broke. He clenched his fists, staring at Celine. His voice was shaky, but firm. "What happens if I say yes?" Celine's eyes softened, glowing like twin stars. She leaned closer, her lips near his ear. "Then you will never be alone again." The pounding on the window shook the whole house. Daniel stood frozen, Selena's words echoing in his head. "Choose now." The hunters scratched against the glass, their long arms twisting unnaturally, their faceless heads pressing forward. The sound was unbearable, like nails on metal. Celine grabbed his hand, pressing it against the glowing mark on his palm. The pain flared, bright and burning. Daniel cried out, but Selene's grip was strong in a voice that seemed to carry both. "Power and sorrow," she whispered. "See us as we truly are." The room spun. The light from the candles stretched, the shadows twisted. Daniel felt like he was being pulled into another place. And then, everything changed. The hunters outside were no longer just shapes. Now he saw them clearly, tall skeletal beings with skin like smoke and hollow pits where eyes should be. Their mouths opened wide, full of endless teeth, gnashing as they clawed at the glass. Daniel gasped in horror. What? What are they? Voice was calm, though her eyes burned. They are devourers. They feed on light, the light that lives in souls. But they cannot create light, only take it. Daniel's throat went dry. And Lila? Why do they want her? Celine turned her gaze toward her daughter, who was clutching the blanket, still half asleep but trembling. Her small glow lit the room like a lantern. Because she was born with more light than anyone, Celine whispered, "She is the last of our kind. And I am the last to protect her." Daniel stared at her, heart racing. "Your kind? What are you saying?" Celine looked back at him, her face unreadable, her voice low. "We are not human, Daniel. We once lived in a place beyond this world, a place of endless stars. But when the hunters came, they destroyed everything. We ran, we hid. And now, only she remains." Daniel's head spun. He wanted to deny it, but the truth burned in front of his eyes. The glowing child. The unnatural power in Celine's stare. The shadow beasts clawing at his home. None of it could be explained by anything human. His voice shook. "And me? Why am I part of this?" Celine's gaze softened. "Because Lila bound you. She chose you. Without meaning to, she gave you a piece of her light. That is why you can see us. That is why you can stand against them." Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at his glowing palm, still burning faintly. "So I'm one of you now." Celine stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. "Not one of us. But with us, if you accept." The pounding grew louder. The glass cracked, thin lines spreading across it. The hunters were breaking through. Daniel's heart pounded. His normal life felt like a distant memory now. He couldn't go back, not after seeing this. He turned to Celine. "If I say yes, if I stay with you, what happens to me?" Celine's expression was unreadable. "You will carry the bond. It will change you. It will protect her, and she will protect you. But you will never be the same again." Daniel swallowed hard. "And if I say no?" Selena's eyes darkened. "Then they will come inside, and you will die." The window shattered. A hunter's long arm stretched into the room, claws sharp as blades. Lila screamed, covering her face with her hands. The glow around her flared brighter, like a shield. The hunters hissed and drew back, but they did not leave. They were waiting for her light to weaken. Daniel's chest ached. He couldn't look away from the terrified child. She wasn't just strange or mysterious anymore. She was a little girl, helpless, scared, clinging to the only protection she had left. Something inside him shifted. His fear didn't vanish, but it bent into something else. Something stronger. He stepped in front of Lila, holding his marked hand out toward the hunters. The glow from his palm burned brighter, forcing the creatures back a step. Daniel shouted, his voice shaking but fierce. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The hunters hissed, retreating slightly, their hollow mouths snapping. The room trembled with their fury. Selena's eyes widened. For the first time, Daniel saw true emotion on her face, something close to relief. "You've chosen," she whispered. Daniel turned to her, his face pale but determined. "No more secrets. If I'm part of this, then I need the truth. All of it." Celine nodded slowly. "Then I will tell you everything. But know this, Daniel." She looked at the broken window, the shadows retreating into the night. "Once you know, you can never escape it. Daniel clenched his glowing fist. His voice was steady now. Then tell me, because I'm not running anymore. Celine looked at him long and hard, her eyes glowing like twin stars in the darkness. Finally, she whispered the words that would change everything. You are not her protector now, Daniel. You are her father. Daniel stood in silence after Celine's words. You are her father now. The room felt heavy, filled with the echo of her voice. Lila clung to his sleeve, her glowing eyes full of hope. Daniel's chest tightened. He wasn't ready to be anyone's father, but deep inside, he knew the bond had already changed him. He cared for her more than he had admitted to himself. But the night was far from over. The shadows outside had not left. They circled the house like hungry wolves, their faceless heads pressing against the broken glass. Their hissing voices slithered through the cracks, whispering Daniel's name. Selena's eyes hardened. They will not stop. Not tonight. I want to break you before you accept fully. This is their last chance. Daniel clenched his glowing fist. Then let them try. The hunters attacked. The windows burst open as the creatures poured inside, their long limbs crawling across the floor, their teeth snapping in the air. The room filled with darkness, swallowing the candlelight. Daniel stood in front of Lila, his body shaking but his will unbroken. He raised his marked hand, and the glow flared brighter, creating a thin shield of light. The hunters hissed, clawing at it, but the barrier held. Celine's voice rang out behind him. Focus, Daniel. The bond is not only in your hand, it's in your heart. Use it. Daniel gritted his teeth. He closed his eyes, thinking of Lila's smile, her laughter, the way she had trusted him without fear. He thought of the promise in her small voice. Please, don't let them take me. When he opened his eyes, the glow spread from his palm to his whole body. A wave of light burst out, slamming into the hunters. They screeched, twisting violently, their smoky bodies burning in the glow. But one hunter remained, bigger, stronger than the rest. Its hollow face turned toward Daniel, and in a deep, broken voice, it hissed, "She belongs to us." Daniel's chest tightened. The creature lunged, faster than the others. Its claws struck the shield, shattering. Daniel fell back, the mark on his hand burning like fire. The hunter raised its claws for the final strike, and then Lila screamed. Her small body glowed like a star, brighter than anything Daniel had ever seen. The light exploded from her, filling the whole room. The hunter wailed, stumbling back, its body breaking apart in the brilliance. But the glow was too much for her small form. Lila collapsed, her light fading as the last hunter dissolved into smoke. Lila? Ah! Daniel cried, rushing to her side. She lay weak, her breathing shallow. Celine knelt beside them, her face pale, her voice trembling for the first time. She gave too much. She won't survive without the bond completing. Daniel looked at her, panic in his eyes. Tell me what to do. Celine grabbed his hands, pressing them over Lila's small chest. Give her your strength. Give her your choice. Daniel's heart pounded. He didn't understand how, but he knew what she meant. This was the final moment. He closed his eyes, pressing his glowing mark against Lila. He thought of everything the first time he saw her in the park. The fear in her eyes, the way she had appeared at his door, the nights of whispers and shadows. And then he thought of her smile, the way she had called him safe. I'm here, he whispered. I'm not leaving you. You're my daughter now. The mark on his hand flared like fire. A surge of warmth passed from him into her. Lila gasped, her small body glowing again, but this time the light was gentle, steady. Her eyes opened. She smiled weakly. Daddy. Daniel's throat tightened. He held her close, his own eyes burning with tears he hadn't expected. Celine placed a hand on his shoulder. Her voice was quiet, full of both sorrow and gratitude. You chose. The bond is complete. She is safe now. Because of you, the hunters were gone. The night was silent again. Only the three of them remained in the broken, candlelit house. Daniel looked at Celine. Her glowing eyes met his. And, for the first time, she looked almost human, tired, relieved, and strangely vulnerable. What happens now? He asked softly. Celine's lips curved into the faintest smile. Now you live with us. You protect her. And she protects you. You are no longer alone, Daniel. None of us are. Daniel glanced at Lila, who had fallen asleep in his arms, her small hand clutching his shirt tightly. His heart swelled with a feeling he couldn't describe. Fear, yes, but also belonging. He took a deep breath. For the first time in years, his empty house felt like home. Outside, the moon shone brighter, as if watching over them. The shadows had vanished into the night. But Daniel knew one thing for certain: they would return someday. The danger was not over. Yet as he held Lila close, her small heartbeat steady against his chest, Daniel whispered to himself, steady and firm, "Let them come. This time, I won't let her go."